The clock struck 11:47 p.m. Christmas Eve was slipping away, minute by minute, and Sarah realized she had nothing left to give. No gifts under the tree, no smile on her face, no strength left in her heart. She sat on the very edge of her couch, staring at the blinking lights of a small, imperfect Christmas tree. She couldn't help but wonder how a season meant for so much joy had become a painful reminder of everything she had lost. Outside, the first snowflakes of the night began to fall, quiet, gentle, unannounced. Inside, in the dim light of her apartment, Sarah whispered a prayer she hadn't spoken in years. If miracles still exist, I need one tonight. She didn't know it yet, but the last gift before Christmas morning was already on its way, carried on the winter wind. The town of Brookhaven slept peacefully beneath a fresh blanket of white. Street lamps cast a soft, golden glow, painting long shadows across the empty roads. Through frosted windows, you could see the shimmer of warmth, families gathered, their laughter echoing faintly, Christmas music playing low. But Sarah's apartment felt different. It was small, dim, and almost bare. The old heater hummed weakly, fighting a losing battle against the cold. The Christmas tree, a little sparse and leaning slightly to one side, was decorated with mismatched ornaments collected over the years. Each one was a memory from a life that once felt so whole, so complete. On the small table beside her, a single photograph stood watch. It was of Sarah, her husband Mark, and their son Noah. They were all smiling, captured in a moment of pure happiness, completely unaware of the future that was waiting just beyond the frame. Mark had passed away 2 years ago. Since then, life hadn't really been about living. It had been about surviving. Christmas used to be Mark's absolute favorite time of year. He loved the lights, the music, the feeling of togetherness. Now, for Sarah, it was the hardest. Money had been impossibly tight for months. The weight of hospital bills, rent, and groceries always came first. Christmas gifts felt like a luxury she just couldn't afford. Sarah worked 2 jobs, waking before the sun and coming home long after dark, yet she still felt like she was sinking, falling further and further behind. Her son Noah, who was only 8 years old, hadn't complained once, not a single word. But Sarah saw it all. She noticed the way his eyes lingered a little too long on the bright displays in store windows. She noticed how he talked less about toys and more about just being together. She felt the sting every time he'd say, "It's okay, Mom," when she'd quickly change the subject away from presents. That quiet understanding, that selfless love from her little boy, hurt more than anything else. How do you explain to a child, Sarah wondered, her voice a whisper in the silent room, that love doesn't always look like gifts wrapped in shiny paper? As midnight crept closer, guilt wrapped itself around her heart like ice. She felt like she had failed him. Failed as a mother. Unable to sit still with the ache in her chest, Sarah grabbed her thin coat and stepped out into the cold night air. The snowflakes felt like gentle kisses on her cheeks. She started walking, with no destination in mind, just needing to move, to breathe, to find something more than the suffocating feeling of her tiny apartment. Her feet, seemingly with a will of their own, led her down the familiar path to the old stone church at the end of Maple Street. Its heavy wooden doors were propped open, and a warm, welcoming light spilled out onto the snow-covered steps. She hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside. The air was still and smelled of pine and old wood. Candles flickered softly, their flames dancing in the quiet. A small group of people sat in the pews, lost in their own quiet reflections. At the front, near the altar, an elderly woman was arranging donated gifts, simple things, wrapped in plain brown paper and tied with string. The woman looked up as Sarah entered, and her eyes, full of a deep, knowing kindness, met Sarah's. She smiled gently. "You look like someone carrying a heavy heart tonight," she said, her voice soft and comforting. Sarah could only nod, the tears she'd been holding back finally threatening to fall. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore," she managed to say, her voice cracking. The woman didn't offer platitudes or easy answers. Instead, she walked over, picked up a small, neatly wrapped box, and placed it gently into Sarah's cold hands. "Sometimes," she said, her eyes never leaving Sarah's, "the greatest gifts aren't the ones we buy in a store. They're the ones that are given exactly when we need them the most." Sarah returned home just moments before midnight. The apartment was quiet. Noah had fallen asleep on the couch, his small hand clutching his father's old, worn scarf. The lights from the little tree reflected softly on his peaceful face. With a strange feeling of reverence, she placed the small, mysterious box under the tree. It was the only one there. At exactly 12 a.m., as Christmas Day officially began, the power in the building flickered. For a heart-stopping second, Sarah thought it would go out completely. But it didn't. Instead, when the lights came back on, they seemed brighter, warmer, fuller. And in that moment, Sarah felt something shift inside her, a quiet sense of peace that she hadn't felt in 2 long years. Before finally heading to bed, she whispered another prayer into the stillness. "Thank you. Even if I don't understand yet." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering her footprints, smoothing over the rough edges of the world and making everything broken and tired look new again. Christmas morning came softly, with pale light filtering through the window. Noah woke up early, his excitement a stark contrast to the quiet of the past few weeks. He ran to the tree, his eyes wide with wonder. He spotted the single gift. He turned to his mother, his face a perfect picture of joy. "Mom, you got something. There's a present." Sarah smiled, a genuine, nervous smile. "Go on, open it." Noah carefully tore away the brown paper. Inside the box wasn't a toy or a gadget. It was a small hand-carved wooden star and a handwritten note. Noah looked at his mom, and she nodded for him to read it. His small voice filled the room. "This star has passed through many hands. It reminds us that hope is strongest when it is shared. May it light your way, even in the darkest of seasons." He looked up from the note, holding the little wooden star, as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. His eyes were shining. "Mom," he said, his voice full of awe. "This is the best gift ever." In that moment, Sarah's heart didn't just ache. It broke wide open, but not with pain. This time, it was with a profound, overwhelming sense of understanding. She finally realized Christmas was never about what she couldn't give. It was about what she already had. It was about the unbreakable love for her son, the quiet resilience that had carried her through the darkest days, and the simple courage to just keep going, one step at a time. Later that day, Sarah and Noah returned to the church. They didn't go empty-handed. They brought with them Mark's old winter coat, still warm, still full of memories of his hugs. They placed it carefully on the donation table, a gift for someone else who needed warmth. As they left, holding hands, Sarah started to notice something she hadn't before. She saw the quiet struggles in the faces of people passing by. She saw how many people were hurting, how many were searching for their own little piece of hope in a world that can often feel cold. And right then, she made a decision. She wouldn't wait for her life to become perfect before she started giving kindness. From that Christmas onward, Sarah volunteered at the church every year. She shared her story, she shared her strength. And slowly, gently, life began to give back. The pain of her loss didn't magically disappear, but it softened. Her faith didn't return all at once, but it grew, little by little, like the first light of dawn after a long night. That Christmas didn't bring expensive gifts or a sudden dramatic miracle. It brought something far greater, far more lasting. It reminded Sarah and perhaps all of us that the most powerful gift we can receive often arrives quietly, unexpectedly, just before the darkest night finally ends. So, if you are struggling this Christmas, if your own heart feels heavy, if you feel like you have nothing left to give, please remember this story. Remember that love is a gift. Hope is a gift. And sometimes, the very last gift, the one that arrives just before Christmas morning, is the one that changes everything. Thank you for listening. Share this story with someone you know who might need a little hope today. And never stop believing, because even now a miracle may be on its way to you.